Hello there. You might get that reference. But ever since I was a young kid, there's one story that has undeniably gripped my heart. I'd come home from school, I'd put in the movies, and I'd watch them over and over and over again. I'm sure you can relate to that. I'd imagine myself as a character in those stories and helping to fight for what was right. And I'm sure you know by now what story I'm talking about. I'm of course talking about Star Wars. I've always loved it. It's always stuck with me. And you're probably not that surprised by it. There are many, many people who trace their love of tales and stories back to Star Wars. I grew up in the 90s, so I kind of missed the craze of all, back in the 80s and the late 70s of going to the theater and seeing it for the first time. But I still remember my first time watching Star Wars and just being amazed with the story. Sure, I love the weapons and the planets and the characters and the setting. I loved all of that. But what it drew me back was all of it together. The story, the tale of Star Wars. And despite all the pushback against them, I really did enjoy the prequels. I enjoyed watching them. I enjoyed seeing the first movie and just wondering, where is he going with this? What's going to happen to Anakin Skywalker? And I know the dialogue wasn't that believable at times or wasn't that greatest. But honestly, when you think about it, it kind of was believable. I mean, I was a teenager at the time and Anakin sounded like I sounded. Very awkward. That's just what happens with teenagers. We're very awkward when we're that age. And sometimes it continues until we're older. There are times nowadays that I'll just go to say something and right out of my head. Or I just mumble and can't get it right. Maybe you relate to that. And so I kind of related to Anakin in that way and having that understanding. I remember, going outside with my friends and playing Jedi vs. Sith with wooden sticks. Did you do that? I'm sure you did. We all did. Playing with our minifigures and our action figures and our Lego, because Lego was huge, coming out with Star Wars stuff. Playing with them and trying to decide how the story was going to play out before the movies came out. Coming up with all these different theories. Oh, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? Going on to StarWars.com, finding the forums and interacting with other fans who may have other theories. Cool side note, it's kind of where I met my best friend, was on StarWars.com. Nowhere to lie, 2004, we met each other, just interacting on the threads there, and we were the best men in each other's weddings. It was pretty cool. But that only happened because of my love for the tale of Star Wars. And even then, back then, I remember walking into a Blockbuster, which some of you probably have no idea what that is. But a Blockbuster was a store that you could go to and you could literally rent movies or video games for like a week. Sometimes 3 days, but usually it was a week. It was great. Great for movies to take them out if you hadn't seen them yet. Great for video games if you wanted to try it before actually buying it. That was a wonderful system. It's like, man, this might be something I like, so I'll go try it out. Anyways, I went to the local Blockbuster. And when I got there, I walked in. This was right after, literally the day that Attack of the Clones was released on DVD and VHS, but I was looking for the DVD. And so I walk in and I say, hey, do you know where episode 2 is? And the lady kind of just looks at me like, episode 2 of what? And in my head I'm thinking, what do you mean of what? It just came out today. How do you not know that Star Wars episode 2 is here on your shelf? And when I did find it, it was literally a full shelf of episode 2. It was a big deal. And so I kind of said that to her. I'm like, Star Wars? You should kind of know this. And she's like, it's over there. She probably didn't want to be there. I kind of understand that at times. But, just remembering different things like that. It's just really cool. It brings me back to just the craze surrounding the Star Wars feel and the story and the tales that were being told there. And then I got to see episode 3 in theaters. I remember sitting there in the theater and wondering, I know Anakin has to fall to the dark side. I know he has to. But is he really going to? Maybe something else is going to happen. I was just kind of pulling the Anakin to make the right decision, even though I knew that it couldn't happen. And then all the Jedi died, and I did, my eyes, I did cry at that point. It was really sad. And then, Obi-Wan and Anakin with the great exchange and the battle at the end. Just so good. So good. What kept me hooked with the story? Was the different themes that George Lucas had brought onto the screen for us to see. You get the idea of the Jedi, light versus dark, fighting for what was right, defending those who couldn't defend themselves. It often reminded me of King Arthur and his knights in the old tales. And I really love King Arthur. That's another story I'll probably talk about at some time. But just the Jedi just defending and fighting for what was right, it just really spoke to me as a young child. And then you had the themes of redemption and brotherhood. This idea that even Darth Vader, who went down this dark path and did all of this evil stuff, even he could still be redeemed. That was a big thing. That was a big changing moment in cinema history when Darth Vader threw the Emperor down the shaft. He was being redeemed. It's not something we really talk about a whole lot today. In fact, in our culture today, we kind of throw redemption out the window. You make one mistake and it's the end of the world. There's no turning back. There's no forgiveness for you. But this theme of redemption, it needs to make a comeback in our movies and our stories, because it's just mind-blowing. It's great. We need it. We need it in our stories. And I'm so glad that George Lucas included it. And then there's the idea of light versus dark. Not just the Jedi versus the Sith, but the light versus the dark inside of us. The journey that Luke went on. He encountered the dark side. He had to make a decision. Is he going to live in the light, or is he going to let the dark side prevail? And then Anakin had that same decision. It just continues on. And we all have that in our own life. We all recognize that. The light versus the dark. Who are we going to serve? And so that's what really spoke to me about Star Wars. That's what really got to me was, the story is fantastic, but it was fantastic because of these different themes that existed. Now, there's a whole lot more I could say about Star Wars, and I probably will in other videos. But that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. Just introduce you to my first love, really, of story and tales. And just share with you, and hopefully that if you have a love of Star Wars, I'd love to hear your story of how you fell in love. What was it? What was it that drew you in? We can talk about it here in the comment section. You can like the video, you can subscribe, and we can talk about it a little bit more. There's also the Discord invite in the description below. If you want to join our Discord, you're more than welcome to do so. But I just wanted to invite you along in this journey as we continue to look at stories. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a great day. And I hope to see you around. Until then, Hineh Ach Ma Tov, which just means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.